Oh, you're the star.
Good evening, everyone. I call to order this special meeting of the River Falls Board of Education. This meeting has been properly notified. We have any visitors or delegations who would like to address the board this evening? Seeing none, we will move on to the next informational items that will be also rolled into our first action item. Mr. Benson?
I know I'm under pressure because of the short meeting that you had last Monday in my absence.
Yeah.
I don't know if you would prefer to have Dave Bell run the slides or what his magic elixir was, but
We missed you, Jamie.
we will see how we're turning into a little competition now between Mr. Bell and myself. We always tweak the slides a little bit, not to confuse, but just as we learn more and think of different ways of analyzing our own data. So you'll see a couple things added here this evening. Traditional slide, Pierce County. Dave last week had pointed out some good news here. It was a nice dip, although that number is not to write home about, but then again, we kind of took another spike back up with the number of new confirmed cases by week. Sorry. We always show the UW River Falls. I just put a circle on. Those are pretty impressive numbers. Not that we want one case of test positive COVID, but for their percent of positive cases to be under 2% is a good thing.
Jamie, this is only students and staff at UW Falls. This isn't the people that are going through the rapid tests.
Correct. Yeah, it's just the university students and
Students and
staff. Correct.
Okay.
And give, we're giving a shout out to them because they've really established a pretty robust process and a system for how they're managing all of that. Sorry. I just wanted to point this out where one of the slides on the Pierce County website shows the number of tests per week, and you can see where they had a target. The red line indicates what they were targeting, and there was a time when, and I don't know what it was back over here, but there was a time when they were not meeting their target, and so now in the green it shows where they are conducting more tests than was their original target. So that's good news. It's good news that they're exceeding what was once their original expectations for testing. We all know the bad news that comes with that. Obviously, these rates for both Pierce County as well as St. Croix County, that positivity rate continues to inch its way forward. Wanted to point this out from Pierce County as well. Again, I'm going to continue to kind of remind this. The more that I look at this and the more that we listened to last week, the Dr. Fauci video, I sent to the board that article out of the Atlantic, and I guess I'm connecting, frankly, that our local evidence at the county level also shows us that, out of the categories for which we find in our county the source of infection, that there are other sources that are being identified in higher numbers than our schools. I didn't put it in here. On this webpage, underneath this table, there are definitions for what does it mean to be a household contact and a close contact of a case and so on. And they note on that tape, or those key notes, that there can be some similarities. And so an example would be if I'm a household close contact, my understanding is you're also counted again then as just a close contact case. So my disclaimer is to say that read the fine print on that table, but most clearly the community spread is the biggest concern, and that's a national story.
I just want to emphasize too, I think you're right about reading the fine print, and also there's a lot of assumptions that go into this. If you interpret the way you just interpreted the school, it looks to me like the safest thing to do is go travel,
Yeah,
which nobody would agree with
Yeah.
probably. So I think we need to be pretty careful about how we
Yep.
characterize these things.
And none of, I don't think there's a person in this room that would deny that we increase our risks the more people we bring together in any one place, including our schools. That certainly is no denying that. This couple of slides I wanted to show you, because this is new information on the state DHS website. And I did provide the link, I cut that in there, and I'm just going to show you how this works. If you go to the state's website, this is the first page that comes up, and if you click on that I've identified the Wisconsin summary, you'll get a page that looks like this, and then I'm saying, click on this particular link that I've identified. And what you have now is the ability for the first time for us to break down city, village, and towns, school district, zip code. There's different ways now, the first time that they pulled all this data together. And so school district, I'll point something out very notable here. And that is that it's the boundary of the school district. It's the entire geographical area of the school district. And this note down here, that these are cases across all age groups within this geographic boundary. It is not the school district. So frankly, I wish there would be some clarifying verbiage up here to make sure that the reader doesn't assume that this is in district, inside the walls of the school district data, because it is not. But I like this information, to their credit, because it shows our entire area that serves students in our school district. But it includes more than just students. It's all people of all ages. So as you go through the sequence of these slides, as I showed, you start on this page, go to that link, you get a link like this, and now you get these choices. You can punch in what you want to look at. I looked at our district, and this is what comes up then for you to look at, and it's the 7-day per 100,000 population. We are currently at 48.7. AZ says that of all the information that's out there on this new website, your public health advisor, suggests that you look at that data, the 7-day rate per 100,000. So that's what we're doing here. This is our boundary area. And what I did here, I just wanted to show you all of the surrounding districts, because on the next slide, there's a reason why I wanted to show you this, is that I went to all of the school districts on that state website and wanted to see, so where do we compare in River Falls compared to all of these other school districts? And I don't want to minimize the numbers. As I said earlier, one case of COVID is bad. 10, 20, 100 cases. I also think that it's good practice for us to find a ray of sunshine in all of this misery. Find some level of good news that we can report and digest the data and make some sense out of it. I frankly find this to be just a little bit of sunshine on a rainy day. When I look at where we're stacking up in comparison to all these other school districts, is why I wanted to add that comparison. It's off of the state's new website. This is a traditional slide that we show you again from the Pierce County website. They break it down here for us by school, not by school districts, but all school districts in Pierce County. And then we know, okay, here's where we're at within our school district. And then we show this slide here that is kind of a game summary. Short of going through those details, I'm going to jump then to this one that we added again last week, because it now shows you an 8-week total of This last slide gives you a snapshot for all of that information here in one place over an 8-week period. So, ray of sunshine, ray of good news. There are over here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 categories, if you will, that are identified that we're analyzing all of this data. Average is the last column. Well, not much, but it's better than the average.
Yeah.
Not much, but it's better than the average. Quite a bit better than the average. Pretty close to the average, not quite there. Better than the average. Not quite there. Better than the average. 5 out of the 7 of these categories, a ray of sunshine, a little bit of good news, is that in 5 out of the 7 categories, we don't see these numbers continuing to scream through the roof, at least by comparison to the average.
Can I think this came up last week, but just want to clarify again, being in the virtual does not change when we say students out due to COVID symptoms or students out due to household member. Normally, they would not be attending school in person. Those people, even though they're not technically missing the instruction that they might be if they were missing hybrid days or whatever, they're still counted on that. The numbers don't go down just because we're in the virtual, right? It's all calculated the same way.
So another way to say it, like, for example, high school or virtual, we are still counting students who are reporting, whether it's a close contact or whether they're seeing that illness in that count. There are high school kids in that count.
Yeah. And we're pretty comfortable. I know this has come up a couple times too, but we're pretty comfortable that we're still wrapping our arms around the same information that we would have if it was hybrid, and we don't have any less ability to monitor these close contacts or.
There's flaws within it that have increased, particularly because here's how the system works, is that when a person goes to a clinic or a testing site, only if they're tested positive, that gets reported to the county.
Mm-hmm.
The county then reports that to the school district. So yes, we're confident that that system has always been in place. The truth is that the counties around the state have become overwhelmed, and admittedly, there may be some flaws, delays in communication. And to the county's defense, sometimes the delay isn't on their part. Sometimes the delay comes on the step prior to that. The testing site, the clinic, is delayed in communicating to the county, which then causes a delay in them communicating to us. But yes, that's how the system is intended to work.
And I think this has come up, but I don't remember it being terribly recent either. We have, almost every, I shouldn't say, there's a lot of people that I know that have been tested, but they've been tested outside of Pierce County, even though they live in Pierce County. That clinic or wherever they're tested reports back to the county that they list as a residency, right?
They do. The only exception would be if you cross state lines.
Okay.
What happens if you cross state lines?
My understanding is that if you take a test in Minnesota, it may not be reported to the county in which you reside in Wisconsin. Does anybody know if that's a thing?
If you look at the St. Croix.
I was always under the impression that even if you got tested in Minnesota and went back to the county that you lived in, if that changed in the last,
I will inquire on that tomorrow. I could have misstated my understanding. I didn't mistake my understanding.
Sounds as though we have some mechanism to understand as to positive cases. My worry has always been the close contacts. It seems like that's the honor system in some respects, because the county's not going to report and say this student is in a close contact pool, right?
Well, unless it's related to something we've supported the identification of the close contact.
Okay. So if they had a family member that was positive and they had close contact, there would really be no way of the school knowing unless the student or the student's parents voluntarily let the school know that
Right.
Johnny is.
And the county works with us to create what we call a line list. That is the list of close contacts.
Sure.
But it too is not without flaw.
Yeah.
Jamie, I have two questions. One relates to this slide. You had asked for parents and families to cooperate and let the school know if anybody has tested positive. I was wondering if parents and families have cooperated with that. And my second question relates to the previous slide with the different school districts. It would be sort of interesting to know what mode of how they're delivering their education, if they're face-to-face or distance or hybrid. Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, to your first question, I'm confident that our families and our parents are, for the most part, cooperating in helping to report those cases. We did not see a significant increase after sending out that request for parents to help us be sure that we're identifying. And again, we sent that out in part because remember, we had our high school students and even our middle school students home. Who's in my verbiage that I always try to use. At home distance learning in a remote setting. This was the why behind if testing sites in the county sometimes are a little delayed in how they get the information and communicate it to us, plus compounding it, now we have more students at home, distance learning. We wanted to do a little spot check, sent out an email to parents saying, hey, are we missing any of you? Please let us know. We did not see a significant rise and increase as a result of that call for help. Your second question, again, was what?
I was just wondering, with the school districts, the previous slide, which school districts are 100% face-to-face, which ones are hybrid, and which ones are, I just was wondering, just to compare for what we're doing with the other school districts.
Yeah, so embedded in an email that I had sent to the board, which is also found on our district website, I have a document of 15 school districts in our region. And out of the 15, 2 weeks ago, there were, I believe, 12 high schools that were at home distance learning. It's a link in the board update, and that same document is on our district website. We want to make sure that we update that tomorrow if it's not already. As a part of that, this document here on the screen is a part of that link that we're referencing. That's at the top of the page. What I have on the screen here is at the top of the page. And then down below it, Amy, it describes those 15 school districts, where they're all at with virtual learning or face-to-face or hybrid. Here's where we're at, grades 9 through 12 at home distance learning with a return on January 11, that's a Monday. We outlined some of the reasons in a letter sent home to parents as to the why of that decision. Some of it was in part a few cases that continued to trickle in at the high school, even though we had previous to that decision been at-home distance learning. We were still getting notified of these at-home learners that had been identified either as test positive, close contacts, etc. In addition, we were speculating, trying to look in our cloudy crystal ball and anticipating, as the experts continue to tell us, that there may still be some residual Thanksgiving hangover kind of increase in the number of cases resulting from people traveling and gathering and so on. Then, had we not made this decision to extend the high school's at-home distance learning, we would have come back in a hybrid for 2 weeks and 2 days. So for a hybrid student, that meant you're only going to be in school face-to-face for a handful of days before we entered the next holiday break. And we felt as though we were going to push our chips in to the center of the table under some admitted speculation that we are better off in the long run to keep them all at home right now, minimize the potential spread here at school, and we continue to hope and believe that on the 11th, we're going to come back and that decision that we made to push our chips in and say, let's sit tight at home until the 11th is going to pay us some dividends starting on the 11th. We'll see if that was an appropriate decision or not, but that really was kind of the essence of how and why that decision was made.
I think it's a wise decision. How has it been received? Any
For
feedback?
the most part, I would say parents and students get it.
Yep.
Our staff understands it. We're hearing some feedback from students and from staff that at least now we're not navigating back and forth between different learning environments, and that there's some believe that to be a more effective way of both teaching and learning rather than multiple methods. The key for me, the number one concern continues to be the social emotional piece of how can we continue to address that for our students. As I mentioned in the Ed program meeting, it's a very real concern that continues to be exacerbated by the more that we keep kids out of our schools. That weighed heavy in our decision as we decided to hold out until January 11th. So in the process of that decision, we're also shifting and moving towards how can we find more ways to bring some students to this building, to provide them face-to-face academic support and social emotional support. So we've been communicating, Principal Lidke's been communicating to students and parents about how we are going to make some of those opportunities available, including you can hop on the bus if you don't have your own transportation. You can use this room or the commons area. We'll have some supervision for that. It's okay if you are here studying and learning and checking in virtually to your class that might be held down the hallway, or it's okay if you stand up out of your chair, walk down and sit in that class to participate in that class, and then come back here or the commons for the next hour. It's okay if part of the time when you're here that you're talking and visiting with some friends. Wear a mask, be 10 feet away from each other, it's okay. Checking in with our counselors. What can we do with some of our co-curricular activities in addition to athletics? How can we continue to kind of cultivate some opportunities there? Right now, mock trial, I believe, is meeting virtually. This would be the time of year for that to go on, just as one example. And so we are continuing to look at ways that we can provide small number of students, individual students, or small cohorts to help with that academic as well as social emotional needs that are there. It's a work in progress, admittedly. I don't know what you've experienced just a day into it. Our kids, last week prior to this, you told me on one day, kid, you had 35 kids in the building. We're serving special ed kids, we're serving Renaissance students.
We're close to 50 today. Today was the first day for lunch, and we served 30 students lunch as well, so that was nice. Again, it's open for any student as needed, either with district transportation or not. It can be for just one block of the class, or it can be the entire day. We have a lot of our students that will actually stay beyond the 1 o'clock virtual time and work here another 2 hours because of Wi-Fi or accessibility with staff. There's more work to be done. I'd like to see 100 kids, to be honest, or more, in that. Our staff are comfortable with it because, again, the delivery's there. I do again worry, just even well before this screen time, 5 hours a day with kids online, it runs them out pretty quick. And I think Damon's going to attest, 5 hours straight listening or being on a laptop with very little breaks is not the best. So I'm hoping we're 2 back on the 11th if all things go well in our matrix and with our numbers in our community.
I'll move on after the high school piece unless there are questions or comments.
One more thing about that, and I think this is something I've been concerned about since the very beginning, is that when we talk about pivot, it almost gets thought of like a toggle switch that we're on and off, on and off. And that just doesn't work. So as much as I would like to see the kids in the building to some degree, because I think that's good for them generally, taking this break adds some consistency. It's got to be less stressful for the teachers switching it on and off. And I know they're really stretched right now. It's got to be less stressful for those families who aren't having to figure on a short-term basis, what am I going to do for childcare? So at least we know for the next, 6 weeks, or for a 6-week period, what this is going to be. And like you say, maybe that will buy us sometimes we get them back here. Second part of that is that extracurricular part of it, and what can we be doing to encourage even virtual extracurricular clubs and organizations in those things. Because I think we're all concerned about students connectivity.
Yeah, in agreement with Alan, the toggle switch is not a good thing. On and off and in and out, and we're home or we're in hybrid and this and that is, this point is, that's not healthy either. Dalen, what thoughts or comments would you share with the board?
I could just, for distance learning as a whole, I know personally it's a lot better to just have consistency throughout the entire week. Like I wake up at the same time every day, I'm done with school at the same time every day. That's been really beneficial being fully online. And I know a lot of kids appreciate having that schedule built in because in hybrid, it felt like it was hard to maintain a true schedule, as well as being fully synchronous with the kids in the other cohort. That has helped a lot to be able to have a class that feels like a full class. I have a question though for co-curriculars like mock trial. We are fully virtual right now. In forensics, there's talk about being in person. If we are gonna allow winter athletics to continue, are we gonna allow co-curriculars like that to continue in person so we don't have to be virtual when sports are able to go and have practice in the gym? I don't know if you can answer that, but
Approved costume carolers to come in right now too. They're going to be starting to carol outside during different things, driving separately. So right now they're singing online. So we're going to start looking at our co-curriculars to approve it with the social distancing measures in place.
Would that include mock trial?
Yeah, so like 1 to 3 is perfect time for some of these students now because technically some of our students may work later in the afternoon, but if they can have a meeting even directly at 1:30 here in our commons or in 2 classrooms that we can spread out and get kids into, that's the whole point behind it.
Does that include the band and choir, or is that part of this? That's part of the school day that wouldn't be viewed as like a
school day. So we have kids coming in for individual lessons with our staff currently, or virtual lessons online with their band or choir director.
But the group together that's not going to happen until potentially the
not so we don't require all kids. So as a band instructor, I would say all brass need to be on Tuesday because it's not a place to require them on the virtual site.
Yeah.
We can open it up for kids to come in during different times. And
okay. It's good to know.
I think the other thing to mention, if Dalen touched on it, is this model, at least for now, provides us with the opportunity for more instruction. There's a lot of friction in that. first.
Seventh and eighth grade returned to the hybrid today. Peak 8th through 6th grade continues in the 5 days a week face-to-face in-school model. Winter athletics continues. We talked about our expansion to improve the instructional model, to improve the expansion for other co-curriculars. The lingering question that the board will be faced with down the road, just as a reminder, will be, right now we're on hold with youth sports and the use of facilities. That doorbell has been already rung a few times, and my answer has been, for now, it continues to be on hold, the facility use. Please check back with me after the next holiday break, and we will assess where administratively we're at with our recommendation, and we'll take the temperature of the school board and see where they're at as well. But for now, things remain on hold with the facility use. But that's a coming attraction that we'll monitor it the next few weeks and see where we're at with a recommendation. So, again, just to recap, for the board to confirm that we continue with what has been described. And I just wanted to mention, I put at the bottom of this slide, new CDC quarantine guidelines that have come out. We sent another letter today to all parents and staff. What has typically been known as the 14-day quarantine time period has now been reduced to 10, as long as you are symptom-free. There's another caveat to the 10-day rule, which is you could even get out of quarantine at day 7 if you have tested negative for COVID. There's a few other kind of details, but in a nutshell, that's the deal. And so we will be following those new guidelines, which is helpful so that people will not be excluded from school for as many days.
We talk about 9 through 12 winter sports, but is there any middle school sports at all, or are they?
They're practicing. I don't think they're having games as far as I know.
Okay. So they're practicing, but not, okay.
But like my experience with that is those sports, like I'm going to use, I don't know what else there is. There's boys and girls basketball at the middle school level in the winter. Maybe there's wrestling, but those programs are not similar to our high school where they run a full season. They run a season that might be like 6 weeks long, and then they pivot to the youth program. So like the 6th grade or 7th grade girls would play their school season November through mid-December, and then they would start their traveling season January 1st.
Oh.
So that, like, when we talk about the youth sports,
Sure.
I think it would
That's where-
piggyback off of that too,
Okay,
in
that's
addition
where
to
we're
what they
gonna
do
get
with the
at.
school. I think they're pretty short seasons generally.
Okay.
Are
So-
there more questions or comments?
I have one question. So this says the CDC and the DHS continue to recommend 14-day quarantine, but the alternatives based on what they know on data say 7 or 10 is probably fine. Is that basically what?
That's how I interpret, yes.
So we have good and better.
Yes.
Better is best is 14, but good is still the 7 and 10, right?
Yes.
Okay.
But for 7, you have to be able to demonstrate.
That you test, yep.
Do we have a motion to continue with the current environment as presented?
So moved.
Rob, is there a second?
Second.
Second,
I got Todd seconding, thank you. Additional questions or comments? Okay, roll call, Bob,
Yes.
Amy,
yes.
Alan?
Yes.
I'm voting yes. Mike?
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
The motion carries. The next recommended action is that we approve the ionization technology installation bid from Ahern in the amount of $211,180. I'll take a motion and then we'll have discussion.
So moved.
Thank you, Alan. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mike. Discussion, questions or comments? Chad, do you want to say anything? Maybe we studied this process. And Joe, we've done some research, we've taken bids. You want to talk any more?
I think we've covered this quite comprehensively unless there are other questions. The bidding process was quite lively and benefited the district greatly. We had a company who was really working very, very hard to earn our business, and the next lowest price for this was $40,000 more. And those three bids were quite close together. So the bid process that we did competitively worked our advantage, and so we feel very comfortable after doing research with KFI, talking with the vendor. They very clearly understand what we're going to be holding them accountable for this project, and we recommend that we're prepared on this project.
You go ahead.
Just how much experience does Aaron have with this technology?
So this is probably going to be their first project with it. Where we feel comfortable with that is Randy Christensen, our engineer, has indicated that the base level of skills that Aaron would have to hire one of their people into their company easily exceeds what would be required here. But where the district is going to be very solidly keep it down is we're going to be coming behind and testing 100% basis to make sure that we actually do achieve it. So we're going to have very skilled people putting it in. This will be their first installation. But like I said, we're going to be doing 100% testing on the backside. So if it doesn't work, we don't.
Is that KFI that would do that testing, or do we have a way to do that ourselves?
Correct. It will be KFI doing the testing. So third party independent testing.
And it seems like logical, I'm assuming this is true, but just to verify it, so then the contract we would write with Aaron's would include some kind of a test afterwards and say, if you don't meet these specs, then something's got to happen, I guess. Somehow it's got to be mitigated.
Contingent upon them
Yeah.
fully getting our room, or each of our classrooms are taking the standard that we share with you and them.
Yeah.
The process. So yes, because it's light on risk for us.
And Chad, I'm assuming, because that's a pretty big gap. So, my intent, I always go up on a low dollar bid just because I'm sensitive to it. I know you would be too. So you think this company, even though this would be a first installation, they probably want to get their foot in the door. Maybe that's the reason for their low bid. 3, 4, 5, 6 years down the road, is it a company that's going to be around? Has it been around? Does it have a reputation, or is this a brand new?
This is a very solid Wisconsin company who has operations everywhere from Green Bay out this way and then down past. So yeah, they're a very reputable company who has a very large place. I don't know exactly the size, but I have to believe that they're probably 1,000 or more employees, kind of an operation with anything else.
Where are they located?
So solid, stable Wisconsin company that's not fly by night.
I would say they've been in this situation before, Alan, so they were within $500 of the awarding contract for St. Croix Falls School District as an example. And that low bid grabbed Chad and I's attention as well. So that's the investigation we've done to share. We called the vendor to find out where they were sourcing it. I'm going to say this, they're not all sourcing it. They're all the same product. It's really a third-party product. They're just installing it. They're not all getting the same place. So they were offered significant discount because of fostering new relationships or whatever. I'm just offering my opinion there. Someone else wanted to be in the market too. So we reaped that reward because they knew this was going to be a neck and neck bid as the other three were. This was stand out winner.
And this is an up and coming product that I think these contractors are very much hoping to put on their resume and say, look, we did this at River Falls, we can do this for you, and they're probably not going to be in a position though, these future customers to get the same discount because when they have this hopefully very positive experience of their belts and theirs.
I'm assuming this company is an HVAC business now, is that, okay,
Mechanical, like, yeah,
okay. The other thing was too, and I think we talked about it before, but you know, we talked about the break even on this product as far as we're actually gonna reduce our fan motors as far as the energy. That is a primary payback in addition, obviously, to the health benefits of having it, or?
so in the initial year, that won't be the case, we've got about half our year done, but the end install is gonna be the first-ish, so, so week of January. So we're only gonna experience this year about probably at best, 50% of the savings. So whatever savings do come from this year will be dollars that drop in budgeted but unused state that should come back here in June. The additional year this year is going to be funded out of capital summer maintenance budget, so get a little over 500,000 there. This 211 will come from there, leaving us with a little over 300,000 in that budget.
But the energy savings, what are we talking about, number of years or months from?
On an annualized basis, we're thinking that it's going to be about 190 to about $225,000 that this will save. So this fiscal year, we're probably going to be breaking about that 100,000 mark, what we're expecting. Next fiscal year, where we have a full cycle, that fiscal year starts July 1st of 2021. We would hope to, and it's not really savings, it's cost avoidance, because we didn't have this 11,000 in the budget to run our HVAC units as much as we did end up running them, so it's more a cost avoidance.
Sure. I don't see us going back to either low
Yeah,
circulation or,
normal.
yeah, we're not going back there. Okay.
So just to confirm, this technology is going to be used in all of our buildings, as well as all of our spaces in all of the buildings, right?
All time is a question, all 10 staff buildings, yes.
So the question I had is, I think you kind of had your eye on like one specific, I don't know if product is the right word, but some version of the technology or device. Yeah, that's the right word. So did everybody bid it with the same exact device, or did they have a variable, or we indicated we want it? Okay.
That's right. We did some internal testing as well as third-party sources to
Yeah.
say, this is the product that we can come to you and say is safe.
Okay.
We did not allow an equivalent. That was the base.
Okay.
And only selection allowed by Alton.
So we're getting exactly what you thought. The only variable is maybe how they price it in terms of a markup or their labor, I guess.
The same manufacturer,
Yeah.
all four of these had provided.
Okay.
medical products.
All right. Yeah, that's good. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't anything that had changed there too, because I know you're pretty adamant about the ozone and some of the other things in there. So.
Correct.
In the first week of January, you think this will be done? Before January 11th.
Any more discussion? Okay, roll call, Bob?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Alan?
Yes.
I'm saying yes.
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Todd? Cindy?
Yes.
The motion is carried.
Good work together.
Yeah,
Thank you very much. We'll go with that. Do we have any proposed items for future agendas? All right, we will schedule the next meeting. Pay attention on this one, because we're making a couple changes. The proposal now is for educational program to meet Monday, December 14th at 6 o'clock, because I know Todd, you can't get there before 6. And there will be a presentation that requires a full board vote. Does that work for you, Jennifer? We start at 6?
I'm out at
And
7.
5:30?
We had it at 5:30, but at 6, yeah. I'm leaving at 6:30.
You're leaving at 6, okay, so.
6:30.
And then Christine, you're out of date.
I can, yeah, that's fine. I'll catch up however I need to. That's
So we'll
fine.
keep it as is.
Yep.
All right, Monday, December 14th at 5:30. There'll be a special board of education meeting Monday, December 14th at 6:30. Finance and facilities will be Monday, December 21st at 6. The next regular board meeting will be Monday, December